Hey everybody, Tim Holmes here with your Pick Your Part storytelling for February. Every month you can visit timholmes.com and click on the Pick Your Part story voting form link, and you'll be able to have your whole family, your whole class, everybody can individually do it. You can do it as a group, but you can make choices and decide how these storytellings will actually turn out. You will be directly involved in telling me how to tell my story. And so this month, we have an awesome story about a frustrated worm, and his tunnels are getting trampled by what looks like a mean, angry giant. And so we'll have to figure out what's going on. And so without further ado, this is going to be your Pick Your Part story for February. If you want to get involved for March's storytelling, that'll happen on March 13th, you can pop over to timholmes.com right now because we've got the voting form already up for March's story. So enjoy, everybody. Let's see what we've created this month. Christopher Worm had had enough. Every week, a big, ugly, mean-looking giant came stomping through their forest and would trample their worm tunnels, their homes, underneath the earth of the forest. And so they would hear the rumble and the tumble and the jumble of the giant coming through, and all the worms would have to escape their tunnels very quickly, and they would watch as the giant made his way through the forest, trampling their tunnels. Christopher had had enough, though. And so together with his worm's friends, he had come up with a plan. They asked their beaver friends to make a wall big enough to block the giant from being able to get near their tunnels. And so the beavers had chewed all night and all day for 4 days. And they had chewed down enough trees, and they had built up a giant dam to block the giant. And so that morning, when they heard the of the giant coming and the rumbling ground, the worms all came up very excited to see if their plan would work. And they could see the giant wall from afar, and they heard the giant's booming voice, "Oh, cool, parkour!" And they heard a huge bang, boom, as the giant jumped up on the wall, and he ran up the wall, and all of a sudden they could see him up on top of the wall, and he was running along it, and he jumped off with a big smile on his face, "Parkour!" And boom, the ground shook more than it ever had. The giant didn't even need to trample their tunnels this week. The ground shook so much, the tunnels just trampled themselves. Boom, they collapsed. And the worms were all very disappointed. And so as they rebuilt their tunnels, they talked about a new plan. We have to come up with a different plan. That wall didn't work. The giant thought it was fun. You know what? Maybe we could chase him away. How are we going to chase him away? All his worm friends thought. We're too tiny. "Well, we should tickle them," said a worm. "I hate being tickled." And everybody agreed that was a good idea. But the worms, again, they were too small. How are they going to get to him to tickle the giant? And that's when they went to their bird friends. And they asked, "Please, please, please, can you please tickle the giant in the other direction? Chase him away." And so the birds all tweeted and agreed that the next time the giant came stomping by, they would all come to the worm's rescue and tickle the giant and chase him away. And so that next week came, and you heard the rumble of the giant coming, and the ground was shaking. All the worms came up anxiously and looked up into the trees filled with their bird friends. And as they saw the giant coming closer and closer, the birds, they all flew and took off. Tweet, 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 tweet. And they attacked him with tickles. And the giant, and it looked like it was going to work. He started to run a little bit in the opposite direction. But then they heard him say, you got me, tickle tag, my turn, I'm it. And he turned right around and he started to chase the birds, trying to tickle them with his large palms and his huge, thick fingers. And the birds, this kind of freaked them out. They were scared. So the birds ran away. They flew away. Tweet, 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 tweet. And the giant chased them, right over the worm's tunnels. And he trampled the tunnels again. The worms couldn't believe it. Their second plan had not worked. And so that week, while they rebuilt their tunnels, they discussed another plan. There had to be a different way to handle this. And then one small brave worm said, Christopher, I might have a plan, but you might be afraid of it. And so the little worm said, we should summon the ferocious feline. And everybody, all the worms stopped all their tunnel making work and they gasped. Not the ferocious feline. No, 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 no. That would be even worse than having the giant trample the tunnels. But the ferocious feline is so ferocious, maybe she can scare the giant away for good. They were at a loss. They had no other good ideas. And so they took this young worm's advice. And after they had finished building their tunnels, they used their sticky worm slime up against the rocks. And they started to put their slime on the rocks and rub their worm bodies up, and making little squeaking sounds. The ferocious feline, for some reason they had no idea why, loved squeaking sounds. And so as they rubbed their worm bodies in their slime on the rock, they could hear. They could hear the ferocious feline making her way through the forest. And they knew that it was time to escape. And so they all tunneled back into their tunnels to hide from the ferocious feline. And that's when they heard the giant was coming through at the exact same time. This was going to work out well. They heard meow, meow, meow from the ferocious feline. And they heard from the giant. And then the giant rumbling stopped. And the ferocious feline stopped. And then they heard the giant say, Princess! It's you! I've been looking for you everywhere! And they poked their heads out of their tunnels to see what was going on. The worms were confused. And they looked up and they saw the giant embracing this ferocious feline. He had the ferocious feline up in his arms and he was cuddling it and kissing its head. And the giant had the biggest smile on his face. And all the worms slowly climbed up out of their holes and went, what's going on? And that's when the giant noticed them. All hundreds and hundreds of these worms. And the giant looked down and goes, were you the squeaking? Did you call my cat? And the worms said, well, yes, we summoned the ferocious feline. Oh, the ferocious feline. Do you hear that, Princess? That's what they call you, a ferocious feline. No, no, no. Princess was just been lost. I've been looking for her week after week. I've been tromping around this entire forest trying to find her. You finally brought us together. Thank you, worms. Thank you so very much. Well, we only did it because you were trampling our tunnels every week. I was? I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I was just so concerned about Princess and where she might be and if she might be okay. I owe you so much. But I'll tell you what, I can help rebuild your tunnels if you'd like. No, 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 said the worms. That's fine. That's fine. Just fine. Just leave us to it. No problem. All right, said the giant. Well, now that I've found Princess, I have no reason to be here anymore. I will make sure to avoid your forest and your tunnels from now on. Well, thank you, said the worms. No, no, thank you, said the giant. And off the giant went, as happy as could be, reunited with his kitty cat, Princess. And the worms? Well, their tunnels stayed untrampled. The end. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a Pick Your Part story designed by everyone who visited timhomes.com, clicked on the link, and voted for what parts would be inside that story. They chose the name. They ended up choosing Christopher as the name of the worm. They ended up choosing Sammy as the name of the giant. I don't think I actually mentioned that in the story, but that was the name of the giant. A little fact for you. And all the different parts of the story were selected by the folks who voted. So right now, the March story voting is up. So you can pop over to timhomes.com, click on the Pick Your Part link, make your vote heard as to what story I will end up telling and how I will tell it come March 13th. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys have a very good night. Take care of yourselves, take care of your families, and always have fun creating.